Y'all already know what it is. One of the hottest podcasts out right now. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Ooh, we lunge up. You make Stevie wonder. If you got a problem, she'll do her best to solve them. Ooh, lunge it. Like for the party. I got to tune in. You know she do this.
Hey y'all, it is your girl, One Lungy, and I am reporting to you guys live from Orlando with Namaya and the crew. So if you guys hear some background noise, I'm in the house with 5 kids, and I told them don't bother me for like 30 minutes to an hour. So we'll see how that goes. But this episode will be very brief, sweet, and straight to the point. The title of this podcast episode is I Had It All But Love. And this episode kind of digs into my upbringing and kind of puts me, kind of ballparks where I am now as far as with my social life. And everything will just kind of come in together. I do have a disclaimer. On this episode, I will mainly be talking about my parents. And if they do decide to listen to this, it's nothing against them because I love my parents dearly. And at that time of me growing up, that was all they knew. So, yeah, disclaimer. I'm not talking down on my parents. I'm not talking about them. I'm just talking about from a child perspective. And a lot of times parents don't know how their child feel. They thought that they did everything possible and that we had the best life, but don't know that once we get older, it kind of plays it plays a big part of us once we get older. And that's basically excuse me, what this podcast will typically be about. So let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and start. So for me, well, let me just narrow it in with the title. I had everything but love. I had my mom and my dad, but I did not have my mother and my father. And growing up, I basically had everything there was to have materialistically and name brand. I had the newest phone. I almost had every phone growing up. I had the newest Jordans. You know, back then the Jordans were kind of active. They're not like retro, like they're coming out again. I had them when they first came out. I had Tommy Hilfiger. I had Nautica. I had every name brand that you can think of that was out at that time. I had them. I had updated shoes. I had everything that could be tied into my parents spending money to give it to me. I had that. But when it was time for track meets, I had to beg my parents to come. When it was time for me to sing a lead song at church growing up, my grandmother was there. When it came to having a chaperone go on field trips with me, my mom and my dad wasn't there. My grandmother was there. When it was time for cheerleading competition, my best friend parents were there supporting me. When I had to cheer for games, my best friend parents were there. My parents were in my life, but they were not active in my life. And my mom and my dad lived a street life growing up. As they always say, I know you guys heard this a million times, if your parents were in the streets, quote unquote, doing things. I threw plenty bricks at the chain game to make sure that y'all have. And that's basically what my lifestyle was growing up. My mom and my dad threw bricks at the chain game to make sure that their kids had everything that they could have. And it was all sweet and good growing up because it was all sweet and thing growing up because, you're the proper kid in school. Everybody like, oh my God, I want this. Why don't you have that? I want this. Why can't I have that? It was all sweet and good. But on the inside, I was crying. Like in the inside, I was like crumbling in the inside because I had everything, but they had their parents that loved them. Their parents were there. Their parents can sit down and have conversation with their parents. I couldn't do that. I had to depend on my grandmother to be there for me. And, being raised by your grandmother, the morals are still the same, the principles and everything, but she couldn't really prepare me for this generation only due to the fact that she's like almost 2 generations behind me. So it's like things change versus when she was growing up. So everything is not the same. And like I always tell my grandmother, the morals, the principles of life are still the same. You're supposed to have respect. You're supposed to carry yourself well. All those still remain the same. But as far as the things that like we went through growing up, or even our kids, if you have kids growing up now, it's different from when we were growing up. And it's kind of hard because I missed out on a lot. I missed out on a lot of things that I could have been a part of. Like my dad, I saw my dad and my mom together, but I never saw my dad love on my mom. I heard my mom say she loved my daddy and that she was with him every day, but they were always arguing. I never got to see my parents love on each other. Like I knew they were together, but I didn't know what love was. My oldest brother, the other male figure that I had in my life growing up, my oldest brother, he was, he did his thing. He wasn't faithful. I never saw him be faithful. So that brought on the mentality of, I saw my dad cheat on my mom. I saw my mom say she still loved my dad. So it's like, okay, how am I supposed to figure this thing out? How do I know how a man's supposed to treat a woman when I saw my dad cheat on my mom? I was a part of it. Like I knew this stuff. I knew my dad was cheating on my mom, but I didn't love my dad more than I loved my mom. But my dad gave me more than my mom. So I felt like I had to protect my dad in what he was doing. Or if I told my mom what my dad was doing, I felt like that would have stopped me from getting the quote unquote everything that I was getting. And my mom, I saw my mom be hurt because my dad had the money, so she stayed. So it's like, do you stay because he has money and you're unhappy? Like this is the things that I look back on and try to not live the same life of my upbringing. And I never met my granddad, which is my dad's mom. So I don't know. And older people, like when I try to have conversation with my grandmother about like when she was courting, when she was dating, or when she was married, she feel like she's not going to have that conversation with me because she don't feel like sitting down talking about her sex. Like I'm not trying to know what you did in the bed, but I'm just trying to get a clear understanding because I don't want to have the same generational curse. My grandmother got married, got divorced with 3 kids. My mom has been married, I think maybe twice, I want to say. Yeah, she has 3 baby daddies and she married 2 of them, and she's not married now. So I try to have conversations with them to try to figure out what went wrong, like what was going on at that time, what was your upbringing on stuff like that. But I kind of just, get my own perspective of them. And like I said, my perspective of my mom was she stayed because of the money. Like she made her own money, but my dad was like the hot topic, everybody, he was a ladies' man growing up. So my mom stayed. My mom catch my dad cheating. She still stayed. And me looking back, I'm kind of like, what made you stay? What made you put yourself through it? And it was always due to the fact because of the money. Not saying that she didn't love my dad, because I know for sure that she do and did, still do to this day, love my dad dearly. But these are always questions that I always wanted to know. And even with my dad, when I ask my dad certain questions, my dad is always, his response of him doing what he was doing was, they allowed it. And if I can get away with it, why not? Oh, okay. Try me. You get what I'm saying? So like my perspective of that was, I saw him do it, as I said, but I couldn't say anything. You know, you better not tell your mom that I did this, or you better not tell nobody you saw this. I saw it all. So now to this day, I don't trust men. Well, I don't say I don't trust them, but I have a trust issue because I saw my mom and my dad be together every day, every night. Yet my dad still find time to cheat. And I have this thing of, now in this generation, people feel like you got to have the finer things in life, or you feel like you got to introduce me to something that will keep me. That's why I introduced myself to traveling before anybody else can. You can't introduce me to traveling when I've been doing this on my own. You can't introduce me to the designer bags, the designer shoes. I had that growing up. Give me something that I didn't have growing up. I didn't have love growing up. Like I had love materialistically. Like I knew that my parents loved me through money. I knew that they loved me through what they bought me. They didn't show me love. To this day, I don't think I can walk up to my mom and hug my mom without her pushing me off from her. Like she never embraced the hug. She never embraced the kisses. I can walk up to my grandmother and hug her and she'll just be like she would embrace it. I don't have pictures with my dad when I was younger because my dad was living the fast life. So I didn't have these things. And I don't want to cry because this is like a sensitive situation for me. I look back now and I have a little sister. Like I'm happy that my little sister gets to witness her dad, but I didn't have that growing up. I had the money, and now she has. It's not saying that I'm jealous of my little sister, because I'm not. I'm like cheering on the inside and happy that she gets that, even if she's forced, even if my dad is forced to do things for her, be there for her, go to the doctor's appointment. My dad, I knew who my dad was. I saw my dad every day, but I never could remember my dad going to a doctor's appointment with me. I never been to Disney World with my dad. I never had these things. So I'm seeing it now, and it's like the little girl inside of me is like crying and like yearning for what she has. But on the other hand, I'm happy that my little girl, my daughter, is living out the little girl in me. And what I mean by that is my dad spends a lot of quality time with my daughter now. My daughter has been to Disney World with my dad. My daughter has been out to public places, like going out to eat, going to the fair, going to this. You get what I'm saying? I didn't have a granddaddy growing up, so I didn't have this stuff. So the stuff that my daughter is witnessing now is basically the little girl inside of me is living it out. So that's how I heal from being hurt by my parents, because now that I'm older, I look back and I can't sit down and have these conversations with my friends about my parents. I can tell them that I had everything, but that's really it. You get what I'm saying? And like my mom took us places. Like I want to say that she didn't. Like I've been to Disney World as a child with my mom. My mom took us out, but I can't remember the times where she did it because she wanted to do it. She did it because she was kind of forced to do it. Like my grandmother forced her to spend time with us. My grandmother forced her to come to church to hear me sing. I had to like become mad for them to show up to my track meets or to come up to my cheer when I cheered at games. I didn't have this stuff. And it's like they didn't do it. And it's not because they didn't want to do it. It's just because that they were living a street life. So it was hard for them. It's like they didn't, my parents choose the street over their kids. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but they felt like the money was more important. So that's why I go hard for my daughter. That's why I spend quality time with my daughter, because I never want her to feel like the money is more important than her. She'll always be more important than the money. Like, if I can't have a job that accepts that my daughter needs me, then I can't be on that job. I'm just sorry. If my daughter is walking, I always say this, if my daughter she wants me to be there to walk across the stage because she can hold a piece of paper on one finger and she wants me there, I'm going to be there. I'm going to tell my job, hey, I'm coming, but I'm coming late. I have to go support my daughter. And this is not nothing forced. This is what I want to do. I spend time with my daughter. My daughter is now 9 and she can tell you what she did on her 3rd and 4th birthday. And that means so much to me because that means that I've done my part. I spend quality time with her. She has these memorable moments that she can look back on and be like, my mom has taken me here. My mom was always there for me. Like, she knows that I may work 12, 13 hours a day, but she knows if I'm working too much and I feel like I haven't been spending time with her, sometimes I'll get off early and just take her to go get tacos. That I've created this thing where she looks forward to spending time with me. On Tuesday, she knows that we go to Tijuana Flats to get tacos because it's Taco Tuesday. So sometimes I may forget and stay at work a little late, and she'll call me and be like, Mommy, do you know what today is? And I'm like, what, Maya? She's like, today is Taco Tuesday. That lets me know that she look forward to the things that I do with her. Like, I always involve my child. I take her places. She's 9 and she makes it hard for what am I going to do for her birthday at this point, because I've taken her places. And that was my coping mechanism for healing. Was I just broke the cycle of doing how I was brought up. I told myself, I'm going to spoil my child. Yeah, she's going to have everything that she wants plus what she needs, but that's not it. I'm going to be her mother. I'm going to be there. I want to be able to have a conversation with her, let her have that relationship with me where she can have that, where she can feel comfortable. I didn't have that. I had more of I had more of a friend than a mother. I always told my mom, like, I don't need a friend. I need my mother. And my mother was not there. I had my mom because she took care of me, but I didn't have my mother. I didn't have that. And now that I'm older, that's like the gap in me and my mom's relationship. I have her as a friend, but I'm so sorry. I have her as a friend, but I don't have her as my mother. I can't come to her and have a conversation with her about, Mom, how do you feel about this? Mom, how do you feel about that? Without it being a friend response. So for me, I seek motherly advice from other people, or I just deal with it on my own because I don't have that. I don't have the opportunity to sit down and be like, this is what it is. This is what I need help with. I don't have that. And it makes it even harder because, you feel like you don't want to tell people your business because people will look at you different. So that's why I'm so bottled in, because every time I attempt to tell someone how I feel, I'm being judged. Or if I sit down and have a talk with my grandmother, she looks at it from not say a negative standpoint, but she look at it from how she was brought up and how things was different her way. She can't tell me how it is now because she don't know. She's not in the world, not per se in the world, but she's not active in this generation. Like, she doesn't know what goes on outside of our home because she stays stuck up in the house, or she's just watching TV. So it's different. And even so, with my dad, I can't come to him and be like, Dad, he's treating me this way, he's treating me that way, because in the back of my mind, you can only give me clarity that a man is cheating on me because it's what you did. You can't tell me that he just this way, or fight past this, because I never saw you be a good man. I saw you be a provider, but I never seen you be a good husband. I never seen you be a good boyfriend. I didn't see these things. So getting advice from him is hard, because he's going to give me a response that I can get from another stranger man in the streets. So that's what makes it hard. And it's kind of, I won't say that, for so long, my parents still don't know this, but I held a grudge against them. I hated them for so long because I was around people that their mother and their dad was there, and I was wondering, like, well, God, I questioned God, where did you go wrong with giving me them? Why did you give me these? Why couldn't I have parents that had a career job? Why couldn't I have parents that was there for me? Why couldn't I have these things? And I hated them for so long because I felt like this is not what when I was younger, it was okay because, I didn't know any better. I just know that I was getting everything. But once I started, let's per se, dating, and I realized what I was missing, I held that grudge against them, because it's like, I never really felt love. I've had everything there is to have that was tied into money, but I didn't have love. I didn't have love in the way that I wanted to be loved. I had money love. I didn't genuinely have love. Like, I didn't feel love. Like, I would walk into my house and didn't feel love. It was just a matter of what new bag we got today, what we got today. I look forward to what we got. And as I got older and when I started dating, that's what I look for. I look for somebody, like, you had to be making money like my dad was. And my dad always drilled into my head that if a man can't do for you what I can do for you, then you don't need them. So that was my mentality for so long. I felt like I had to date somebody that was selling drugs, or I felt like I had to date somebody that was doing stuff illegally, because I thought that was the only way that you make a lot of money. So I started dating men that sold drugs. I started dating people that was doing fraud, that was doing stuff illegally, bringing in almost thousands of dollars every day. I felt like that's what I had to date, because my dad drilled into my head that if a man can't do for you what I can, then you don't need him. And my dad was a type that my dad he's a very good provider. That's something I would never take away from him. But he always felt like my dad loves to feel like he loved for people to depend on him. So he loves when you call him and ask him for money. And to him, I don't know what it does for him, but I feel like it's comforting to him that he can still be able to provide for his kids, even as all his kids except one is grown. Like, if I don't ask my dad for anything, Sometimes he'll just come to my house and be like, hey, I left you $200, I left you $100 on the dresser, because he knows he feel like that's the only connection that, I just got this, it just came to my head. He feel like that's the only connection to his kids, is that we need him for money. And it's only because that's how he was brought up and that's how we grew up. He felt like, okay, if I just give you the money, go do what you want to do. And it's always been that way. And now that I'm an adult, the little girl inside of me still, wants to go out to, like, be able to take my dad out to dinner or be able to go to the movies with my dad. But it's like, it's uncomfortable because even me being 28, I never went out to eat with my dad. I never, as far as I can remember, I'm trying to hold it in. As far as I can remember in my adult life, I think I've only hugged my dad twice. My daddy never kissed me on the forehead and told me he loved me. It was always uncomfortable for him. I don't know. But as far as I can remember, I don't remember my dad hugging me and telling me that he loves me. And I saw my dad every day. But these are things that I never had. And it's almost heart-wrenching. It's like, I almost feel like I just rather had not knew my dad and him just being on child support. Because me knowing you and seeing him every day made it 10 times more harder, because it's like, I knew you my whole life. I saw you. There was not a time that I didn't see you. And it's like, it makes it a lot more harder. It makes it a lot more harder, because it would have been one thing to me to heal from having you absent, like not seeing you, not knowing who you are. I think I would have rather dealt with that than to know you my whole life, see you, have communication with you, and still never experience a hug, or still never experiencing a kiss, still never experience a sit down dinner where we're talking and we can express our feelings. I had that opportunity and I missed it because he didn't know how to be a father. He knew how to be my dad. He knew how to take care of me, but he didn't know how to protect me. He didn't know how to be there for me when I needed him the most. And it's just nerve-wracking. Even to this day, I try not to just go back and hold this grudge, but that part is just always touchy for me. Like I brag about my dad, but on the inside, when I brag, it still hurts. So I'm just gonna wrap this up. That I may go back and talk about it, I don't know, but for me, that is why this podcast title is called I Had Everything But Love. And even now, it's hard for me to date now because there are certain stuff that I never felt before, that I don't know what I'm feeling. Sometimes I'm confused. Like, I don't know what love, I don't really know what love is. I feel like I've never been in love before. Like, I know I love someone, but I don't know, like, what am I supposed to feel? Like, sometimes I almost feel like I'm loving people, but I don't feel love because I don't really know what I'm feeling. And I'm learning to understand my feelings. So that's what it comes to as far as me now, that not saying my ways, but certain stuff, I don't have the best advice, or I don't have the best perspective of it, because I don't know. I'm still learning. And goes back to the first episode of feeling rejected. So, yeah, that's basically it for me. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for all your support. And be sure to follow us on all social medias. On Instagram. I have Instagram. I have a Facebook like page. And we're available on 3 main platforms. We are available on SoundCloud. We are available on Apple Podcasts and available on YouTube. And YouTube is kind of just the backup, because some people may not have an iPhone, for one. And second, a lot of people don't know. A lot of older people don't know what SoundCloud is. So I always make it available so that way everybody can listen. And again, thank you guys for listening. Until next time, goodbye.